Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Dale Price, and I'm the founder of Access College America. We're a national provider for college planning guidance, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to today's nationwide webinar. In just a few moments, I'll introduce our presenter, but first, I just want to go over a few things. We actually record all of these webinars, and we will be putting it on the Access College America website. Also, we're going to be covering a lot of material. I'm really excited about this topic, so please make sure that you grab a pen and paper and you have that handy so that you can also take notes. Finally, for those of you that are using Zoom today, I do invite you to submit your questions at any time during the webinar using the Q&A box. So if you move your cursor around, you'll see there's a little box that'll pop up on the bottom of your screen, and you can just submit your questions that way. Now, at this time, I would like to introduce today's presenter, Taylor Florio, who will be talking about tips and tricks for the college search process. Originally from Florida, Taylor earned her bachelor's degree at Florida Gulf Coast University in Communication and Public Relations. She now calls Charlotte, North Carolina home and is passionate about working with students and their families through the college search process. She has also been in higher education for the past 9 years. She served as the Assistant Director of Admissions at Queen's University in Charlotte. Following that, she served as an enrollment consultant with TW+. She currently serves as the Regional Admissions Recruiter for the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and she is the President of the Charlotte Regionals of Western North Carolina Association. She is an active member of the Carolinas Association of College Registrar and Admissions Officers, the Southern Association of College Admissions Counselors, and serves as the co-chair of the SACAC North Carolina Government Relations Committee. And she loves being a resource for prospective students in North Carolina and Western North Carolina. And I will say I've worked with Taylor several times, and she's always a pleasure to work with. My students love meeting with her, and I'm really excited about her doing this presentation. So at this point, go ahead and take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dale, for that wonderful intro. I'm so excited to talk to all of you about this topic. I think for a lot of you, it might be a little overwhelming to just wrap your head around all that goes into finding the exact perfect college for you. And so my hope today is that I offer some tips and tricks and maybe something that you've never heard before that'll help you along this process. So I'm going to touch on 3 different things. And like Dale mentioned before, please take notes, add questions in the chat box. And my hope is that we can get to all of those questions at the end. So let's get started. If it will advance. All right. Oh gosh, so sorry. Okay, number 1 is college fairs. In my opinion, this is the most free, easy, accessible opportunity to get in front of a college. This is when a college will come to you in a big event type of setting. There are a lot of different types of college fairs, so know that if you can't make one, chances are there's going to be another one in your area or even close by. It's the least expensive way to get in front of schools because they're usually put on by someone else, whether it be an association like NACAC or SACAC. I know we are going to use a lot of terms like that, but associations will essentially put them on and invite colleges from either a regional basis or across the nation or even globally speaking. It's a great way for them to come to you. That way you can, leave your neighborhood, maybe spend a little less than 30 minutes in the car, and then boom, you land at a venue and there are hundreds of schools right in front of you, which is wonderful. Couple things that I would recommend is when you go to a college fair, make sure that you are talking to schools that are not close to where you live. And the reason why I say that is because let's say you reside in North Carolina, the chances of you getting in the car and getting to a college or university in North Carolina is pretty high because you're close to them. If you were to talk to a school in California or the Northeast or somewhere far away geographically, those are the chances that you have to speak to them at a college fair that maybe you wouldn't have at any other time. It's the greatest way to talk to multiple schools and get a lot of information all in one fell swoop. I don't think my photo's showing up, but there's a picture of a college fair, and it can be very overwhelming. Sometimes you walk into the building and there are hundreds upon hundreds of schools. And I think for any high school student that it's never done this before, it can be very overwhelming and you don't really know where to start. And so I would recommend that you start with your fit list. And I think I bypassed that slide, so my apologies, but I'm going to talk a little bit about fit and what that sounds like. So finding the right fit means knowing what the school is going to offer you financially, geographically, size-wise, program-wise, extracurricular opportunities, and maybe anything else that might be important to you. It's very, very important that you start making that list as early as you can so that you can figure out what exactly you're looking for in a school. And I would say don't be afraid to ask yourself what deal breakers you might have. What are some non-negotiables that you absolutely want in a school? Do you want to be able to drive home? Or do you not mind taking a flight across the country? Is price going to be a really important factor to you? Are you pretty concerned with the size, or do you want a more intimate environment? Do you care if they have athletics or not? Those things are very important. So make sure you have your fit list with you and you have that in the back of your head as you're speaking to these colleges. And I would say for the parents listening, I like to say that the students are in the driver's seat and you parents are in the passenger seat. And then us regional or us admissions counselors tend to act as the GPS. And so as the students are talking to the recruiters, parents, it's really helpful if you can kind of be right by their side, jotting down notes on your phone or on a piece of paper so that way you guys can speak about that later on when you get home. And the biggest thing is don't spend too much time at a college fair table. This is not the time for you to give them your resume or have them evaluate your transcript or interview, for a potential place at the college. This is your chance to kind of make a first impression, touch base, introduce yourself, gather information, and take the materials with you, because chances are there's going to be a lot of other schools you want to talk to and you want to make the most of your time. There's the photo. And remember, students, this is your adventure. You are the one in the driver's seat and you are the one that has to make this decision. It is a family affair and there's a lot of things that go into choosing a college, but just be aware of what you want and be aware of who you want to talk to and what kind of schools you're looking for. Another quick tip that you can see on the bottom right-hand corner is for the inquiry cards. So a lot of times colleges will collect your information as a way to keep in touch with you on a little card, and it's going to ask you for a lot of information. If you don't have a lot of time or you want to be more efficient with your time, you can actually pre-print little address cards with your name and address and phone number, email, high school, et cetera, et cetera. And that will allow you to then, instead of sitting at the table and writing everything out, you can just kind of rip it off, throw it on the inquiry card, and move right along. Some college fairs will actually use scanners as well, which is a way for them to scan a barcode that already has all your information on it. But remember, make the most of it and be efficient with your time. The last thing to remember at college fairs is that we're your friends and we don't bite. Usually there is almost always a friendly face behind a college fair table. We're actually not allowed to step in front of our tables or kind of reel you in. We have to wait until a student approaches us. And so we really notice when the students come up to us and they ask us questions. You are our priority and you are the reason why we're even there. And so if there's ever any hesitation as to, oh, I don't know, let's use Alabama for an example, since that's the photo that you see. Alabama's a big school. I don't know if I could fit in there. I don't know if I could get in. You never know until you ask. And so I would say, no matter how intimidating a table or a person might seem, know that we don't bite and we are there to help you. And there's never a silly question that you can ask us. We absolutely want to help. All right, the second thing is when a college rep comes to you. And so this would be in a more intimate setting at your high school. So hopefully a lot of you know that college representatives will make visits to your high schools throughout the school year at different times of the day. And so again, this is a very convenient way for you to get in front of a college. It costs you $0 and zero time because you're already at school. And we will set up the time with the school. We will advertise that we're coming. And then usually your high school counselors will allow you to sign up for the visit. This is a great chance to get a more intimate interaction with us. I'll say personally, I've been to high schools where I've had 30 people in a visit and I have to give kind of an informal information session, but then I've also been in front of just 2 students before. And those are the times that I really get to dig deep about what that student wants, what they're interested in, and tell them a lot more candidly and personally about the university. So make sure that if there is a school that you're really interested in, or maybe a school that you have heard of, that you go to those visits, as long as you're allowed, obviously, and ask those questions. And again, remember that the more you show up to college events and the more you're showing your face to these college representatives, the more demonstrated interest you're showing that school. I can't even tell you how many times I've reviewed an application and remembered, oh, I met them at this college fair and I saw them at their high school. And so the more you can put yourself in front of that school, the better. Another thing that I'll mention is the idea that a lot of schools send you things like emails and postcards and things like that, that maybe you've never heard of the school before. And you're like, how in the world did they get my information? There's a reason why they're sending you that information. You've got something they want, whether it's your academic qualities, maybe it's where you live, maybe it's your interest. And so even if you've never heard of a school, if that school visits your high school or if they're at a college fair, absolutely go up and say, hey, I've been getting emails from you. Can you tell me a little bit about your school? There might be something out there that you didn't even know would be a perfect fit for you unless you reach out. Good impressions are very, very important. Know what you're wearing, know what you look like. I will say it's easier to remember a student that was wearing not the best outfit when I go to a visit or I meet them at a college fair. But the students that kind of dress up or at least make a good impression do stand out in my mind. And so I wrote on here, ask authentic questions. A good example of that is I get the question a lot, what is your minimum average GPA? And to be honest, that's a weird question because I don't really know how to answer it because those are two different things. And so my idea of an authentic question would be, I saw on your website that students are going abroad for different things. Can you tell me more about that? That to me shows that a student has, one, gone to my website, which is wonderful. It means they're interested. Two, it shows me that they've got an interest in studying abroad. And so then I can address those programs and I can tell them what they offer. So don't ask us, if we have business, because we have our publications right there in front of you and there should be our majors listed out. Ask things that you can't necessarily find on the publications or the website. And that's going to add a very authentic conversation between you and the college rep. The tip on the left that you can see is making sure that you fill out an inquiry card or making sure that you ask the representative, how can I keep in touch with the university? I would say in 2019, more schools are going away from the physical paper cards and their inquiries are online. And so a lot of times they'll refer you to their website to then fill out the form. But take advantage of those materials, take them home. And honestly, we're not going to be offended if you throw them away at a later time. But as long as you take them and look through them, you'll be able to see what the school can offer you and if it's going to be a good fit for you. This is a bulletin board of my office, and it's full of notes from students. And so the reason why I posted this for you all today is to just say that sometimes writing a little note to your admissions counselor for, taking the time to meet with you while you're on campus, or thank you for coming to my high school, that can go a long way. And it also shows demonstrated interest. I think the art of writing letters is lost, and I know that we talk about that all the time, but by no means will this change your admissions decision or sway in one way or another, but it does show demonstrated interest, and it shows that you have a serious consideration of that school. And so I always like to show that if you do write the card, the counselor is most likely going to keep it. I've kept every single note that students have written me over the last 9 to 10 years. All right, the last thing is campus visits, and these are what are going to cost you a little bit of money and a little bit of time, but in my personal opinion, it is probably the most effective way to make sure that you're choosing the right school for you. The example that I always like to use is jeans, buying jeans. Amazon has clothes, and anyone can go on there, type in blue jeans, buy a pair that they think might fit, get shipped to your house. And the chances of them fitting are a little bit lower than if you went to the mall, went to a store, grabbed a few styles, tried them on, and then we're able to find your exact right fit. And the same thing goes for college campuses. So you will get emails, you will get Instagram ads, you will get mailers in the mail, all with pretty pictures and fun stats and facts about all these different schools. And while those are all really great, there's something to be said about physically going to that space and trying on that campus. A lot of times this can help you start your college search process. If you were to travel to schools in your junior year or maybe the beginning of your senior year, or it can be a time where you visit them in the later part of your senior year once you're ready to make that decision. And getting a tangible vibe. I love like just being able to put your hands on things. So walking the halls and walking the sidewalks and eating in the dining hall and asking questions to strangers. I always encourage my students when they're visiting campus. I say, do yourself a favor, go up to someone you don't know and ask them where they're from and how they like going to this school. Because chances are they're going to give you a very candid and honest answer. And hopefully they're giving you an answer that you like to hear, and it'll give you a good, honest, idea of what that school is like. And so don't be afraid to talk to strangers when you're on that campus. A big thing to think about is what that campus tour is going to do for you. So be aware of what happens when you're on the campus tour. When you get there, how personalized did they make it? Were you greeted? Is your name on something? How excited are they to see you? Because not only are you shopping for them, but they're also trying to figure out if you're going to be a good fit for the school. And so keep an eye on that. Also, when you go out on those tours, are there 50 people in a tour, or is it more like 20 to 10? How intimate are those interactions? Because a lot of times those groups can be very reflective of how your classroom sizes, and your interactions on campus will look like. And the genuinity of it, a lot of times colleges will allow their students to give campus tours, and most of the time they're running off of a script. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the script because it allows for consistency in messaging and you guys figuring out stats and facts about buildings and things like that. But are they adding their personal touch to it? Are they adding personal stories? How genuine and how excited do these tour guides look to be telling you about their school? Is this just another job that they have on campus, or are they really, really pleased to be telling you about the school that they attend? And then the tip that I included is do more than just a campus tour. A lot of times students will just think that the campus tour is all that there is to offer. But if you reach out to your admissions counselor, there's a really good chance that they'll be able to get you a meeting or a special maybe lunch with a student or an additional facilities tour all alongside of the campus tour that you're going to take. I know for Alabama specifically, we do very personalized campus tours for anyone that will ask. So if I have a student who is interested in engineering, Greek life, study abroad, and I don't even know, campus ministries, there's a good chance that I can get them meetings with every single one of those departments. They just have to ask. So don't be afraid to explore more options, and then make sure that you're looking at things both on and off campus. I think it's really easy to get caught up in what is within the square footage of the campus grounds, but there will be a time where you need to run to a Walmart or a Target or go to the movies or do something off campus. And if you haven't had the chance to explore that as well, you won't fully know what that campus can offer you. So definitely look around on and off campus. And just remember that this is the college's chance to make a good first impression too. So not only are you kind of absorbing all the information, but like I mentioned before, take advantage of how that tour is being conducted. A lot of times the tour guides will be walking backwards, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But, they're talking about their rock walls and their pools and their fancy buildings and their stats, which is all good. But just kind of be taking notice of what kind of stories they're telling and focus in on the details that they're expressing. You don't want to get caught up in just seeing how nice the lawn is mowed or how big the marble pillars are. You want to really get a feel for what that school can offer you based on experiences, extracurriculars, What is your bedroom going to look like when you live on campus? All those things are really, really important. So remember to keep in mind what you want in a school and be looking for that as you're on the campus tour. And this is my favorite quote to tell students. It says, always trust your gut. It knows what your head has not figured out yet. The biggest advice that I can give is start taking college tours as early as you can. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and within Charlotte, North Carolina, there are a number of wonderful schools: UNC Charlotte, Queens, Johnson C. Smith, Johnson and Wales, Gardner-Webb. I mean, you name it. And so even if a student from Charlotte doesn't want to go to any of those colleges, they can very easily get a campus tour at any of those schools, even if it's just to practice, right? They want a bigger school, maybe they'll visit UNC Charlotte and just get an idea of what a bigger school feels like, even if that school is not necessarily where they want to go. Or if they want a smaller liberal arts school, maybe they should go take a tour of Queens. 1, because it's affordable. 2, because it's easy to do. And 3, it just gives you an idea of how to conduct these visits before you actually go to your main list of schools. And there's nothing to deny that your gut is going to tell you where you want to be. Again, I think there are a number of wonderful universities, and I really think that there are more than just one perfect school for each student. But there's definitely going to be that school that just gives you that gut feeling that, yeah, this is where I need to be. And so I would encourage you guys to follow your gut and to be aware of what you're looking at and how you're feeling as you walk onto those college campuses. And parents, I will say, support your students, listen to what they want, and help them acknowledge what they're finding in a school and affirm those decisions with them, because I think it'll help the process along the way. So that is all I have. And I think we've got some time for questions. So I'm going to put myself back on mute and let Dale take over from here.
Actually, Taylor, you don't have to put yourself on mute. Just
oh, great.
Hey, and so I do have some questions and actually some comments. But did you want to just mention anything about Alabama while we have we have you here? Maybe something about the university, admissions, anything like that?
Sure. I'll spend a few moments. So the University of Alabama is the flagship institution of the state. We are the largest. We have about 38,000 undergraduate students. And fun fact, over 60% of those students are not from the state of Alabama. So we have a very, very predominantly out-of-state population. I think that also adds for a very geographically diverse environment. A lot of people think that it's just a bunch of Southern students going to a Southern school. But it's really easy for students that are out of state to connect on campus because they're with like people. People know us for our scholarships. We are very generous with out of state scholarships and even in state as well. The merit scholarships are automatic and they're solely based on your GPA and test scores coming out of high school. You can find all of the information on our website, but right now they range anywhere from $5,000 a year to $26,000 a year. So pretty big awards in that regards. Academically speaking, people know us for business and engineering, but we've got a School of Nursing, the Human Environmental Sciences, a ton of pre-professional programs, a great School of Communication and Information Sciences. We even have a law school on campus. And if you don't already follow some of the channels on social from Alabama, I highly recommend you do so. I think it's the easiest way to see what our students are doing. We have living learning communities, a wonderful study abroad program. We're really big on co-ops and experiential learning. We send a lot of our students abroad for business ventures and things like that. Campus visits, like I mentioned, if Alabama is any sort of piqued your interest, you can email me, and if you don't live in North Carolina, I can get you connected with your regional recruiter, and we would love to get you onto campus, try on Tuscaloosa a little bit, and see if it's going to be a good place for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And that's actually a really good segue. So we've got a lot of folks that are tuning in right now that have kids that are going to be, rising freshmen all the way up to the junior year. And I think that you touched on a lot of really, really important things that, you need to really focus. The students need to focus on making a good first impression also. I mean, you talked about demonstrated interest, and I always tell my clients that this is really a contact sport. You've got to be in it to win it, especially with how selective schools can be these days. Can you share with families maybe what is demonstrated interest? A lot of them, this is the first time they're hearing that term.
Yeah, absolutely. Demonstrated interest really just means how the student is showing that they're interested in the university. And to be honest, every school is going to be different in how they gauge demonstrated interest. At a school like Alabama, it's not going to be as important that you conduct an interview with an alumni or you attend a certain amount of events. But some of the more selective schools or schools that are smaller love when students show demonstrated interest. And so this could be attending a college fair. It could be attending a private visit. It could be attending a event on campus. It could be clicking on an email link. It could be asking for an additional opportunity to speak to a representative. So really, any time that a student raises their hand or shows any type of action towards the university, that's what we consider demonstrated interest. And a lot of times, like I mentioned, colleges will keep track of every touch point. And so that will then, sometimes it can come down to, all right, we've got 2 students. They're both equally yoked as far as academics go, but it looks like Taylor showed a little bit more demonstrated interest. And so they might give you an admissions decision based on that.
Yep, exactly. And in my past life, when I was also an admissions officer, we kept track of everything: phone calls, tours, if you were subscribed to the mailers. We really kept track of that. So that's really important. And the other thing that I'm glad that you brought up, and I'm so glad that you showed this, is the thank you notes. I always tell my students, when you take a tour, handwritten thank you note. I said, I promise you that admissions officer is going to take that note, put it up on their billboard, and they're going to remember you, and they're going to see your name throughout the year, right?
Exactly. I think too, we want to keep track of you, and we want to be able to see how your adventure is going, because like I mentioned before, like, you are the priority and we are invested in you. And so if a student takes the time to say thank you or touch base, even if it's like towards the end of the process, it goes a long way. And I think, again, not only is it demonstrated interest, but it just shows that they're genuinely grateful for the work that, you put in.
Exactly. And I think a lot of families, and I'm going to get to this next question, you kind of answered this before, but a lot of families don't realize, and I'm glad that we have, folks tuning in on Facebook. A lot of families don't realize the admissions officers, the admissions officers that your students are meeting, a lot of times they have influence. They are the ones that are literally reading the application. They're making decisions with the panel. Is this someone that we really want to have on our campus? Does this fit the mold of our students? So families need to keep that in mind, that, that when an admissions officer is visiting your high school or when you're visiting a college campus, you need to take that seriously. You need to treat that person as if they have they can be the person that decides if you get scholarships and things like that. Claudia asked, and I think, and you, like I said, you touched on this a little bit, but I'll just read the question. Claudia says, I'm going into my sophomore year and toured my very first college. I'm interested in computer science, but the last tour showed me a building for communication majors. What's the best way to speak with admissions about my interests so I don't see buildings that I'm not going to take again?
That is such a good question. I feel your pain, because a lot of times it will be out of your control as a student on what you see on the campus tour. And so I think that's why it's so important to get in touch with your admissions counselor, the specific person that is assigned to your high school prior to visiting, so that you can kind of ask those questions ahead of time. Like, listen, I am only interested in engineering or computer science. So how can I best put myself in front of those people? And it might be that they say, you know what, let's have you do a half portion of the tour, and then I'm going to have you scoot over to this faculty member's office and have you meet with them. Now, on the flip side, let's say you've already been to campus and you've already been through this and you still didn't get what you were looking for. Again, reach out to your counselor and see if they can get you connected via email or in a virtual way. That would be my best advice.
Great. And Michelle's wanting to know, when is the best time to schedule tours?
Oh, Michelle, that's such a good question. So it depends. I would say whatever's most important for you and whatever's going to fit best for your family is probably the most important time. And the only reason why I say that is because, let's use Alabama, for example. A student that is looking to go to Alabama but doesn't care about football should not try to, get there on a Friday that there's a home football game, because it's going to be very centered around football. If your financial situation only allows for you to go when your parents have off of work so they don't have to take time off, then let that be the time that you visit. I think ideally, in a perfect world, going to visit a campus on a Tuesday when students are there is ideal. I think it's easy to go towards weekend trips and that kind of thing, but Saturdays on college campuses, no matter where you are or how, weekend school or not the school is, you're not going to get a true feel for what that campus is like. So I would say no matter when you go, visit during the week and just make sure it's a good situation for your family.
Great. And another question is, this is from Aaron. I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I heard it's harder to get into some schools as an out-of-state student. Does Alabama prefer in-state or out-of-state students?
That's a good question. For Alabama specifically, we do not have a preference on where you live. And again, like I mentioned, we're 60% out of state. So you are already part of the majority of students that attend Alabama.
Okay, great. And then Jennifer is asking, I've heard a lot about honors programs. Can you tell me a little bit about requirements? Do they vary? What is an honors program?
Oh, that's such a good question. So the honors program at Alabama specifically is more of a accelerated way for students to not only challenge themselves academically, but get a little bit more interaction with faculty and each other. Most honors colleges are going to have a higher caliber requirement. So for Alabama specifically, 3.5 GPA, 30 on the ACT, or a 1380 on the SAT to be considered. And then our honors college requires you to live in a living learning community, meaning that your dorm is also full of other honors students so that you can be living life with them. I will say that most colleges' honors programs are nothing like taking honors classes in high school. So if you're taking honors algebra, it's just a more accelerated version of algebra. That is not the case in college. Usually it's classes that have to do with different topics that may or may not be related to your major. And really the idea behind honors college is to teach you critical thinking, interdisciplinary skills, and kind of get you going outside of the box and practicing those 21st century skills that employers are wanting to see these days.
Great. And then I'll ask one last question. One of the things that I try prepping folks that work with me for before they go on a college tour, or even really before, when you visit a high school and you're talking to a high school classes, I let them know, you may have a very limited number of questions you can ask as admissions officer, especially at a college fair. I mean, those lines can get really long to talk to you. So do your research in advance and try to find out all of the questions that you can't, try to ask those questions that you can't find out on the website or things like that in advance. Do you have any recommendations for questions that students, should consider asking or should ask an admissions officer, aside from, what is the GPA requirements to get in and what is your college known for? Those things you can find out online. But what are some examples of questions? I mean, I know we all say there's no such thing as a bad question, but what are some great questions to ask admissions officers when you're visiting a college fair and things like that?
Yeah, that's good. I would say I love when students come up to me and say, my name is Taylor and I really love working with my hands. What kind of majors can you offer that require, assembling and deassembling things? And so immediately I'm already thinking like, oh, this student is very inquisitive. They like, working with their hands. What kind of majors can I offer them? And then I would recommend certain things. Also, I would recommend saying, this is a passion of mine. Can you tell me more about how you can offer me that on your campus? Maybe it's an extracurricular activity that is really important to you that you want to speak more on. Or you can say, tell me more about your admissions process. I know I want to adhere to your deadlines. Can you share them, with me? So it's not like you're asking hard questions. It's just the approach and the way that you ask them. Every question that you ask should be about you, not what you think your friends are asking or not what you've seen, in a quick Google search. It should be very specific to what you want in a university. If you have a non-negotiable, Like, how, I get this question all the time, how long does it take to get to Alabama from here? And so I can automatically tell distance is very important to the student, and the parents are looking at me like, it better not be that far away, right? So make sure that whatever you're asking is asked in a, thought-provoking way, and that it's specific to what you want.
Exactly. So, for those that are tuning in, having a game plan, going up and having those questions prepared and listed in advance. And especially if, an admissions officer is taking the time to come to your high school, students sit in the very front row and ask those thought-provoking questions and really, really be excited to have that opportunity to meet with someone who really could be the decision maker into whether or not you get into that program. So, Taylor, it's always really great to connect with you and work with you on things like this. And I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to share this information with us. For those that are tuning in on Facebook and on Zoom, today's webinar will be recorded and put on the Access College America website. That website is accesscollegeamerica.org. We recently revamped our website, and it now includes quick links for college planning, newsworthy updates for today's prospective college student, parent advice articles, a scholarship central page featuring over 100 scholarships plus so much more. And the best part is it's all free. So make sure that you check it out at accesscollegeamerica.org. Finally, if you know anyone looking for college planning guidance, let me know. ACA is now accepting rising freshmen, sophomore, and juniors nationwide, and services include academic planning, career exploration, SAT, ACT test planning, plus how to prep for the college visit. So visit us for then at that point. And again, this concludes today's webinar. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye.